to the RoundTable. My name is Ben Hurst and I'll be your host for today. And today we're going to be discussing identity and labels. Today more than ever, society's putting labels on everything that we do. The person we love, the food that we eat, the ways that we behave. And the question is it all just too much? Or is it just what we need to feel safe and to feel like we're part of a community? We're going to start the conversation with a question. What does society label you as and why?
I'm in politics, so I get BAME woman. Sometimes now I'm in a conservative environment, so I get working class or from a deprived background.
You gotta love the conservatives, eh?
Yeah, I'm not, no shot, but I'm more aware of the boxes that I fit into because I'm not in an environment that, I'm not surrounded by people who look or sound or are from the same places as I am. So the differences are more apparent. And for me, they're more apparent because the people I'm around aren't necessarily always accommodating to those differences. And I've always been in environments that were very inclusive and we had lots of different people, but there was a very much inclusive and diverse environment. So now I'm not in those kind of spaces. The labels are far more apparent.
Right.
Yeah.
So you notice the labels more when you're not around people that you identify with?
I think you notice the labels more when you are surrounded by people who aren't comfortable with differences.
Okay. KG, what about you? How do you identify? What does society label you as?
Stormzy. Anyone dark skinned, basically. Well, I'm the person that people say I look, and I don't look nothing like.
Yeah.
Just anyone. So usually I look like a security guard or big, or just like.
I'm not over Stormzy.
Just anyone big and black, really. I think that's my thing. Or people, I think when people see me, obviously I'm cool in it. Yeah. But then I know before I say something, they're like, oh, I wonder what he'll do to me.
Yeah, man's.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I wonder what he's gonna do. That's the first thought sometimes. And then they hear me laugh and like, oh, he's not gonna do nothing.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? But then it's like, I do in terms of, but then it's the roles I get as well though. So I will get like, obviously as an actor and stuff, when I see a script, I kind of know where I'm going. I'm gonna break in your house or something.
Yeah, street fight number 3.
Yeah. They rate me a bit more. I'm not just number 3. I'll
right,
probably be like number 1, 1.2.
I'm a professional.
No, but I think it's how you identify is more important. So I don't really care. Yeah. Usually, like I love doing comedy shows and people thinking I'm a security guard, and then I step on the stage and like, oh shit, I didn't know he was gonna do that. Yeah, I didn't. Why didn't you tell us he was a comedian? Do you know what I mean? So I do like frying on his head. You know what I mean? So I think identity is how you perceive yourself first. Do you know what I mean? Before then. Anyone's gonna think something about you, but that doesn't matter. I'm a bit more secure in.
I think what you said was really interesting about not caring, because I feel like I want to say I don't care, but actually the impact of being labelled in certain ways, like there were loads of stereotypes that you were talking about that alluded to like being a black man and being like, one thing is like being perceived as a threat or being perceived as scary. And I want to not care about that, but I feel like the impact it has on me means that I actually move through the world completely differently. To like somebody who's not a black man, like when I'm on public transport, I'm super aware of like how I'm presenting or whether I'm intimidating or who I'm sitting next to or not spreading my legs, not taking up too much space. All of that kind of stuff like constantly plays on my mind.
It's in your attributes to who and what you do, in a sense. So like, you can put me in that place and I'll be like, they're looking, but I'm like, whatever, man.
That's literally how I feel in like every space I'm in. You know, black, Jamaican heritage, also, as people see you, they're like, you're a Christian, you're a minister, priest, preacher, whatever, also part of the LGBT plus community. All those things mixed together, and it's like, who are you?
I was just thinking about this. Obviously, it's really interesting listening to this now, because I was thinking, like when I was brought up I was in like this convent school, private school on like a hill in like a boarding school in like the middle of like the south, like South Coast. And now I realise the labels that I was taught to use on other people, like the labels that like the community, at least down there, was sort of showing me to other people. And now I meet people and I realise the difference between the labels and what's actually true, like what people have, you know.
Yeah, and we definitely build like these constructs and these understandings of other people.
Yeah.
Some people argue it's because like they need to do it to feel safe or to protect themselves from danger or whatever. But we all have like certain ways of understanding people from the moment we see them. Andy, I'm interested in how society labels you.
Although I am white, I don't look white. So I get F off, abbreviated form of Pakistani, and to go back where I came from.
You like brown from here?
No, I don't, because I then agree with them.
Yeah, you perpetuate the thing.
As soon as I've said that, I've now agreed that it's legitimate. No, I'm not one of those. It's okay. Right. I'm white like you guys. You know, let's do the secret handshake. So it gets a bit confused and a bit messed up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like none of it should actually matter, to be honest.
I think there's too many labels and it's jarring. It's too much. I don't even know where to start. There's like, you can't say this, you can't say that. Actually, no, this is this, this is that. Oh, wait a minute, I'm this, I'm that. Actually, you can't. It's very confusing, and it's just like, you don't even know what to say anymore because you don't want to offend anybody. People label me probably as like the angry black woman that's opinionated and always has something to say and chip on her shoulder. That's why, you know.
Passionate, I would say.
Passionate, yeah. I mean, I would say I'm passionate, but a lot of people will it's you're angry and all this.
I mean, just in general, like, I went to like a really like privileged white sixth form, and a lot of people there thought I was white with a tan. Wow. And I was literally like
you know, some people really
what
don't
kind
know.
of tan in their juice? How can I look like you? And I'm like, this is natural. Like, you know, can't really help you there. And before I used to be kind of angry at them, but I think as I've kind of grown up, I mean, I'm only 23, but still, I think I'm quite mature. I just laugh because I'm just like, I just feel sorry for you that you're just that ignorant, that no one, you know, taught you well, and like, it's not my place to educate you. Like, I'm not going to go around to everybody who's told me that, you know, this and that, because it's exhausting and I shouldn't have to. But especially in the industry I'm in, it's extremely hard being a woman of colour in the music industry, because even recently, the other day, this security guard was like telling me to get out of the venue because he was like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, I work here. And he was like, oh, really? Like, really? Like, you know, that the kind of tone, because, you know, I didn't have a uniform. As a photographer, you wear what you want, you just have a camera. They assume you're someone else. When I go on tour with bands, people are like, oh, so like, who are you sleeping with? Yeah. And I'm like,
people actually say that?
I'm actually valid in this space,
every single tour I've been on, there's been somebody, they'll shake the band's hand and look at me. So I kind of just make a point now of just walking up to everybody and just, hi, I'm Isha, shake their hand. And they look at me like, oh my God, who's she? Like, why am I shaking her hand? Literally, so I get it a lot with, I mean, I understand to an extent if I'm not wearing uniform, but then I see like, a white guy walk past without uniform and they just like let him go. But it's the tone. It's like literally, it's just like it's degrading. It's like really like I don't know. And it's expression they have. It's not just to do with it's assumptions as well. Every day on a shoot, there'll be somebody. It's like that.
I get that in Parliament, and like I've had that, and I've seen and heard stories of. When we walk around Parliament, we have to use a pass. And some people get checked for their passes more than others, especially when you're walking down corridors where the public shouldn't go down. And so I've had this issue, and a piece of advice that someone gave me was that in life we can choose to be offended by these things, or we can choose sometimes to take on the role of an educator. So in a case like that, what I've learned now is that, so I had this person who was quite, I think, racially discriminatory towards me, and rather than getting offended by it, which I did for a very long time, I'm now looking at ways to connect with him, because, you know, we have these differences, but we all have similarities. And because I think in today's society we're so focused on the division and the labels and the differences, we lose track and we lose sight of the similarities that we all hold. So I've tried to connect with him, see what he's interested in, and try to build a kind of rapport rather than taking it on, because that can be really harmful if you take on that kind of stuff and keep it in here. But if you can take on an educator, or it might help.
Do you know what? I love that so much, and I absolutely hate it at the same time.
Yeah, because you shouldn't have to.
Right, like I feel like it's really good and it's really important, and unfortunately, particularly for those of us who have identities that are not within what is considered normal, like we have to make so much extra effort just to be accepted or just to fit in.
I think that's sort of how equality has happened over time in
the whole
everything,
time.
like just being someone's, no matter if they hate you, if they spit at you, being someone's neighbor, if that makes any sense, like being friendly to them no matter how they're treating you. And obviously you feel like you're maybe disregarded as like with whichever labels they've given you.
And it's not
you just sort of have to, I know this person has some has a misinterpretation about me, so I'm going to teach them that I'm not what they think.
And it's with everything, you know, it's not just being BAME, it's with the pronouns. I referred to someone who wanted to be referred as to as they, and I referred to her as a she. And I was educated in that moment, and then I thought, do you know what? There's nothing wrong with it. It's not just BAME people that go through this. It's other people who have a similar struggle. So education isn't a bad thing, because I was educated in that moment, and I realised the importance.
It requires grace, right? Like
Exactly.
it requires people to allow for mistakes to be made. This is something I really want to talk about, which is a collection of things. And I think what we often do is we like silo people into one thing. So you are a black man, or you are a black man, or you are a woman of colour, you might be a straight white man. We don't know. And it's usually the things that, I know it was wrong, right? But it was intentional, because what I was gonna say was it's usually the things that are visible to us immediately. So things like disability don't come onto the agenda. Things like transgender, when somebody is not visibly trans, we don't identify them as that. We just identify people as what we see. And what I'm interested in is what things have gone too far. So what things are the things that there is no longer space for us to have conversations about? It's no longer a question of us educating, because I think we spent a lot of time talking about the role of education and how we can support people in understanding. But actually there are also people in the world who don't care, people in the world who don't want to know. And how do we navigate those spaces as people who have varied identities? What do we do?
I think white people using the N-word, I don't want to have this conversation anymore. Like, it's not, you're not allowed in it. Like, whether or not we use it, don't be like, oh, my black friend said it's okay. No, your black friend is chatting shit and you're not allowed to use it. Like, things like that, I don't want to have to keep explaining it to you. You're not allowed, end of. And I don't want to, it's boring. It's so boring having that conversation continuously over and over again.
My thing is, and it's crazy because identity is like, it's strong to me. Like, especially as someone, I've got a child, I've got a daughter and stuff, and now I'm starting to realize how the strength of like, so I've got a Nigerian background, and as soon as I grew up here, but my parents always told me that I'm not English, I'm not British. They said, you're Nigerian. And I was brought up, even though I was here, I was brought up in a proper Nigerian community. African parties.
It's not the same thing.
I was literally grew up in that community, and I have so much strength from that. Do you know what I mean? I actually knew who I was, but now I'm realizing I've moved to Bromley with my daughter. And now, and like,
that's not Nigerian.
And that it's not one. It's not Nigerian, and she like before. I've always growing up. I just had black friends. You know what I mean? I grew up in the ends. Now my daughter's the only black girl at a young age of 3. So if the toys that she has and the books that I give her, all of those are black.
Yeah, they have to be.
All of those are black, and I've said that, and I've seen people's face like, oh my God, like, bro, like, how can you just buy your daughter black dolls? But I know there's an importance of her connecting. You know what I mean? There's an importance of her feeling that's me. And
there's also a lack of understanding of what the actual representation is in the world.
There you
so
go.
People don't see that all of the dolls are white.
I don't want to do that talk anymore about, oh, we need to teach them this and we need to teach them that. No, right now, things have to change. And I know I have to teach my daughter, you're black, identify as a Nigerian, because even if you identify as British, you'll be British for a while, and then you'll fail, and then they'll do Ancestry.com and remember that you're Nigerian. Do you see what I'm saying? So right now, to save yourself from all that, this is who you are.
That's why I think education is like multifaceted. It's about the education you have with a racist colleague, but then also the education that you have with your daughter who is black, and you're black, and you have to educate her about the importance of where she comes from. And I think when you do that, she may actually go into her class in Bromley and now have a conversation with another when she's 5, or she will educate someone in her class, and then we have a generational shift. But education needs to happen, because if we don't have the conversations, the information's lost.
But it doesn't. You don't see black people, normal black people, on TV. The first black people you found was the New Family in EastEnders. Or it's rare. Or you're not seeing that, or you're just seeing, then if you do see, you see a snapshot of a kid stabbing. Do you know what I mean? So
it's either a bad representation,
you're
or
not getting no representation
of black people who are in close proximity to
normal family.
A
normal family. So how can I educate? How can you have an education when you've never seen it?
So first of all, we have no representation. Like, people call me MIA, and I'm like, she's Sri Lankan, I'm Indian. Big difference. But yeah, we literally, I don't know if you guys can name any Indian people who are not light skinned and kind of dark skinned in the media, because I can't even, because there is literally nobody.
You know what's mad about
I struggle with that a lot.
Is that Bollywood is the biggest film industry in the world.
Light skin Bollywood.
And it's still got its own issues, but it's mad that the biggest film industry in the world has no representation in this country. We still can't name anyone, but you carry on.
And even I can't, as in, I've tried, it's not like I haven't, and especially doing photography, I always want to work with South Asian women, and I do have loads of friends, but I can't just be using them all the time. And there is a problem within the community, that we need to fix, and that's a separate issue, but people are just not willing to, I get more support from everybody else that is not South Asian, because there's just so much hatred, I don't know, people just hate each other there, and again, it's because of the media, I can't even now name any big TV shows or films that actually show a strong community or people getting together. And if it is, it's the Asian girl is the best friend or the side chick, she's never important.
I want to talk about, and also, like I said before, we often focus on the most visible aspect. So I think it's natural that race comes up as something, because we see how it affects the world. But I think there are some other things like gender and sexuality that don't necessarily get as much space in the conversation. I'm really interested in what you mentioned earlier about where your identities meet between being a man of colour, so being a Jamaican man, and also being somebody who identifies as gay. And what is that experience like?
I think it's difficult, because people often have this idea of what it means. I think it's all tied up with masculinity and this idea of what it means to be a male. I think religious contexts or Christian ones, the idea of what a man is supposed to be, you're supposed to be a husband, and that looks like something. And if you're part of the LGBT community, then also in the church, or in lots of Christian spaces, the default position is that you should be celibate, and you're not meant to have a sexuality actually, in a sense. So you certainly don't explore that. You don't take it anywhere. You're not meant to look for love, and that shouldn't. Even if you do find love, that's still seen as being something which some people would assume would just be a celibate relationship. So now there's a completely new, different way of being Christian and gay, bisexual, transgender, lesbian. People are seeing that actually the two things, for lots of people, do work together.
What I am interested in is if I could give you a microphone and you could talk about your identity to the world and tell them what you felt they needed to hear about who you are, what would that thing be?
Well, I guess that's a big one, because there's multiple different things. I think at the moment, speaking about identity and just what it is in society at the moment, obviously I'm maybe not obviously, but I'm in the LGBT community. You can probably tell from the crazy hair color, not just saying that's a label other people put on me, which is very true, so I can't really blame them for it. But I'm pansexual. I usually just say bisexual, and I'm a trans man. And really what I'm trying to do, I do it on my YouTube and on social media, I'm just trying to say, obviously you have to, don't run into something, especially like a transition, but just, it's all about finding what makes you happy, and whether it be a label you like to give to yourself, or a label that you don't want for yourself. At this point in my thing, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to ignore what anyone else wants to force on me as in their labels, and what they want to call me and what they want to think, and I'm just trying to think about how I can make myself happy. But it is also hard. You can't just ignore these things, you can't ignore the things that people want to call you. But I think it should be about try and express yourself how you want to and just try to not to listen to the things that other people are saying about you.
I'm gonna chuck over to Andy.
Be human. Be human. Love one another. Be quick to hear and slow to speak.
Yeah. Very, very important.
Hear other people first. Don't always come with what conclusion you've already made or preconceived idea and perception.
Zeze.
If I had to tell the world one thing about me.
Yeah, about your identity that you think they need to know.
I don't think they need to know anything. And I think that's the problem. One of the problems that as I've got older, you try to explain yourself and you try to, accept me. And then you get actually caught in a cycle of just trying to please other people. Yeah. And I feel like now I'm in that space where it's just like, this is me. If you don't like it, then you can piss off. Yeah. And I've got nothing to say to you.
And you know what? Sometimes the world needs to know that, right?
And
like,
how I am. If you want to, embrace me, you can. If you don't, that's also okay. I'm not going to hold that against you.
I would just say, stop assuming, be willing to be educated, but then also educate others.
Important. And KG, you want to add anything?
Stormzy, innit?
It's very important. They need to know. You need to know. Thank you to everyone for sharing and for talking. And I think it's been a really honest conversation. I don't think there's any conclusions to draw. I just think this is a conversation that has to happen and has to keep happening. So if you're at home, like, comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of this video and follow us for more content. Thank you for watching.